Hi friends, welcome back to another reading wrap-up. First of all, thank you so much for all of your enthusiasm and excitement about last month's reading wrap-up. I'm so excited that there are so many readers out there and that so many of you enjoyed watching the video and seeing what I had been reading. It was something that I wanted to try and I wasn't sure if it would work, and it seems like a lot of you really liked it, so I love it. That makes me really happy, and I'm back this month to tell you what I read. I had a pretty awesome reading month in March, and almost everything that I read was 4+ stars. So it was very exciting. It felt really good and almost reinvigorating to have all of those really good reads, and I have definitely caught the reading bug and I can't stop. So I read 5 thriller, mystery, suspense type novels in the month of March, so let's go through those first. The first book that I read in the month of March is The Kind Worth Killing by Peter Swanson, and this book has been out for quite a while and it is a really popular suspense novel, and it's popular for a reason. It definitely is. Now I will say that probably for most of these mystery novels, I'm not going to say a ton about what they're about because I think it's usually better to go into books like this not knowing much about what's coming. I find them more fun that way. So I will give very quick recaps of what they're about and I won't go into too much detail. So The Kind Worth Killing is about these 2 strangers that meet in an airport and find themselves on the same flight sitting next to each other. And they start talking about their problems or things that are bothering them, and they end up talking about murdering someone. And the story takes off from there. This book was so good. Peter Swanson went places that I didn't expect him to go. It took me a little while to get into the book. At the very beginning, I was like, okay, this seems like your standard mystery thriller. I didn't really see what could happen that was going to make me stay interested, but wow, it went there, it went all kinds of places, and it was so good. I gave this one 4.5 stars. There was just the tiniest bit missing that could have made it a 5-star read for me, but I loved it, and I know that Peter Swanson came out with a book called The Kind Worth Saving more recently, and I'm definitely looking forward to reading that one. I've heard mixed reviews about it, but I really want to give it a try. Next, I read Verity by Colleen Hoover, and let me tell you, I was nervous about this one. Knowing what Colleen Hoover typically writes, I am positive that Colleen Hoover is not an author for me. I don't like romance. I'm not into that kind of novel. So I was really nervous about Verity. I knew that it was something different than what Colleen Hoover normally writes, but I was still really nervous about it. I still wasn't sure what I was going to be walking into. So this tells the story of a writer named Lowen who is approached one day with a very interesting proposition. There is a very, very famous author named Verity who has fallen ill and is no longer able to complete her contract to finish a series with her publisher. And they're looking for an author to come in and help finish the series and basically complete the work that Verity can't finish. So Lowen agrees to this proposition, but also somehow ends up living in Verity's household with her husband and children, and things aren't always what they seem. There are kind of creepy vibes in the house, and Lowen is trying to figure out what's really going on, and then she finds some things that Verity has written in the past, and I won't say much more because I don't want to give too much away. Basically, you have the present day of what is going on with Lowen living in Verity's household and trying to write a novel, and you have a peek into Verity's own musings through this manuscript that Lowen finds. And the text keeps going back and forth between the two, and it was so good. I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked by how much I liked this book. It was really, really good. I know that there are mixed feelings about it out there. Some people think it's not that great. Some people think it's amazing. I'm more in the amazing camp. I gave this 4.5 stars. There were some things that I thought were a little bit funky and I didn't love too much, but I had to give it 4.5 stars because it had me so hooked. I didn't want to stop reading. This was the first time that I picked up a book like that in a while, where I just really, really never wanted to put it down. So, good job, Colleen Hoover. I won't be reading any of your other books, but you deserve a pat on the back for Verity. Next, I read None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. And I know Lisa Jewell has written a lot of books, but this was my first experience with her, and I really enjoyed it. This tells the story of two women that meet coincidentally one day because they are both out celebrating their birthday. And they begin talking, and they realize that they actually have the exact same birthday. They were in fact born on the same day in the same hospital. And one of them is a podcaster, and she's looking for something new to work on, a new project, something to kind of shift gears from what she typically podcasts about. And the other woman, whose name is Josie, approaches her and has this idea to make a podcast about her birthday twin. So things continue from there. We learn about the two women through their experiences together, through their podcasting together, and then we also realize that there is a lot of stuff that they all might be lying about. I mean, the title of the book is None of This Is True, so you very much are going through the book wondering what you can believe, what is true, what isn't true, is any of it true? And this book took me quite a while to get into. I was really not quite feeling it at the beginning, but from the beginning, I had this feeling, this like overarching sense of dread that something was coming. Even though it hadn't happened yet, I knew something bad was going to go down. And that feeling that I just couldn't get rid of really kept me reading and kept me going until the point where the book really had me hooked. So this one I also gave 4.5 stars. Really liked it. And I read this for a book club that I'm in, and we actually all enjoyed it so much that we decided to read another Lisa Jewell book for next month. So that's a little sneak peek at what will be coming next month as well. The next mystery that I read was a little bit less serious, and that is Finlay Donovan is Killing It by El Casimano. This book I had really high hopes for, I think because I've heard such good things about it, so I went into it really, really, really wanting it to be amazing. And I don't want to say it disappointed me because I did end up liking it in the end, but it wasn't quite what I was expecting. So this tells the story of an author named Finlay Donovan, and she is meeting with her agent one day and talking about trying to kill off a character in her latest book. But she is overheard by someone, and they misunderstand what's going on, and they think that she is a professional hit woman. So they hire her to commit murder, and she kind of bumbles through this whole experience trying to get out of it, but accidentally still getting entangled in the whole thing. And it was very silly, very funny, There were times when I was a little bit less invested than others. So as I was reading it, I wasn't 100% sure that I was going to continue with the series, but based on the way that it ended, I think I'm definitely going to give it a try. I listened to this one on audiobook, and because I can read things a lot faster on audio, I think I'm going to continue with this series because it's low stakes, and I'm sure that even if I don't love it, I'm still going to have a good time reading it, and I really want to know what happens after the ending of the first book. So I gave this one 4 stars, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next. The final mystery that I read this month is It Waits in the Forest by Sarah Doss, and I actually was lucky enough to read an ARC, or an advanced reader copy, of this book, which will be releasing on May 14th, 2024. This is a mystery thriller with a bit of a paranormal aspect thrown in as well. It tells the story of a girl named Selena who had a tragedy befall her family when she was younger, and her father was murdered and her mother was severely injured and is in a coma and has been for several years. And Selena is making money by practicing witchcraft, or pretending to practice witchcraft. So the people that live on the island that she is from are very they really believe in witchcraft and magic, and she does not, but she kind of takes advantage of their beliefs and pretends that she can do magic and make spells and all that kind of stuff. But one day some mysterious things start happening that seem like they actually might be paranormal, and Selena is thrust into this adventure of trying to figure out what's going on and getting pulled into a case that is connected to what happened to her parents. So she is learning a little bit more about her past, her parents' past, and what is currently going on her island. And I have to say, it was really good. I normally don't get too into mystery thrillers that end up having a paranormal aspect to them, but this wasn't too heavy-handed. It was, I don't want to say believable because, you know, I'm not sure it was actually believable, like it could really happen, but yeah, it did, the paranormal stuff didn't feel too overbearing, and it felt more believable in a weird way. I don't know if that makes any sense. But anyway, I did really enjoy this book. I gave this 4 stars as well, and I hope that when it releases on May 14th, it will get a lot of readers and other people will enjoy it as well. Continuing along with a paranormal theme, I read Heartless, which is book 4 of the Parasol Protectorate by Gail Carriger. And I will not talk too much about this because it's book 4 in a 5-book series, so I don't want to spoil anything, but this series is very silly. It takes place in Victorian era London, and there is a woman named Alexia Terabody, and she is what is called soulless back then, meaning she has no soul. In this world, an excess of soul is what will allow one to become a paranormal being, such as a werewolf or a vampire or a ghost. And there are very rare beings called soulless, which counteract those effects. So if she were to touch a vampire, that vampire's fangs retract and they can stand out in the sun, things like that. So this book is, this whole series is very, very silly. It is, if you're someone that really likes puns and things like that, you would probably like this series. It is uncouth. It is, it really does not take itself seriously. It's hilarious. I highly recommend it. It's a little bit, you have to be willing to go into it knowing that it's trying to be silly and it's trying to be goofy. And there's also some Victorian type language in there. So you have to be prepared for what you're going into, but oh my gosh, I love this series. I love it so much. There's a teensy bit of romance thrown in there with Alexia and her partner, but it's so good. It's so silly. It brings me so much joy because it's just lighthearted and funny and goofy, and it's just, I feel like also if you're someone that really likes physical comedy, you would probably also like this series because it is just goofy and bumbling and hilarious. So I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. It's not my favorite in this series. I think probably, I would say book 1 or 2 is probably my favorite in the series, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. I only have one more book left in the series and I am looking forward to reading it soon because I really, really enjoy this world. The last 2 books that I read this month are a little bit different from everything else I read, and the first is Aquicorn Cove by Kay O'Neill. This is a very short little graphic novel about unicorn seahorses, pretty much. Kay O'Neill is probably, I would say, most well known for a series of books called the Tea Dragon Society, and oh my gosh, their illustration style is just beautiful. They write books, graphic novels, that are so heartwarming and they really pull on the heartstrings. They teach lessons. They're amazing for younger readers or adults. They're so good. So this one tells the story of a young girl who has recently lost her mother and is returning back to the sea or the coastline where she lost her mother. She lost her mother in a storm and she is trying to get used to being back by the ocean and not having fear associated with that. And it also talks about environmentalism and the damage that we do to the land and the sea and how all of the animals suffer based on what we do and how we treat our resources that we have in the world. It's so good. This was amazing. It was amazing. I gave it 5 stars. How could I not give it 5 stars? It was beautiful. It was so cute. I like to occasionally, if I can't sleep or something like that, I will pull out a cute little comic like this and hope that it helps me drift off to sleep, and it did the trick. It was adorable. I loved it. Highly recommend for readers of all ages. It was beautiful. And the last book that I read this month is a little bit of a bummer. It was The Turn of the Screw by Henry James, and I read this book because for a book club next month we are reading The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware, and I heard that it was very loosely based on The Turn of the Screw, and I thought the audiobook was really, really short. Might as well give it a shot and see if there are any similarities between the two. And it was fine. It was a classic. It wasn't a very good classic in my opinion. It tells the story of a woman who becomes a governess at a house taking care of a couple of children, and she starts seeing some ghosts. The ghosts, I believe, are after the children, and you're kind of left wondering, are there really ghosts, or is this woman losing her mind kind of thing? You know, is it what's true, what's not true, what's in her head, that kind of thing. And it was fine. It was, apparently it was originally released in a serial manner, so little bits of the story would be released at a time when it was originally published, and I think I can imagine that it probably felt more suspenseful and scarier in that kind of presentation than in a single book that I listened to in one day. It didn't feel spooky at all. It felt like it kept trying to like tell me like, ooh, this is really spooky, you should be scared. But I never actually felt that way. It was just like trying to convince me that I should be scared, you know? I gave this 2 stars in the end. I didn't really care about it. I didn't feel like it was that great of a book, unfortunately. So that was a little bit of a bummer, but everything else I read this month I loved. So it balances out just fine. One little bummer of a book is fine for all of the amazing other things that I read this month. So what did you read this month? Did you have any books that you absolutely loved? Have you read any of the books that I read this month? I would love to talk to you about any of them, other than The Turn of the Screw, really. I would love to chat about any of the books that I read. They were all great. Again, thank you so much for your support and your excitement about these videos, and I hope you enjoy this one, and I can't wait to see what I end up reading next month, and I can't wait to talk to you about it. So until then, take care of you. I will see you next month with more reads, and bye-bye.